Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me on Facebook in the Sorcerer's Guild. Today on Magical Theory, we are going to be talking about paradigm shifting. Okay, so those of you who are unfamiliar with this particular aspect of chaos magic, what is paradigm shifting? Paradigm shifting is when we use belief as a tool to alter our perception of reality. Okay, so what does that mean? Now, in this series, or on this channel, I have brought up the idea of the law of perceptions quite a few times. That is, belief imparts reality. So what we're doing when we're paradigm shifting is altering our beliefs to impart a new reality. And this can be accomplished in many ways. The most accessible of these is simply to go from one belief structure to another. We can do this simply by experimenting with other religions, going to a church if you want, going to a service and allowing yourself to experience these things. Now the trick with paradigm shifting when you're doing these small ones, going to a church service or going to a Buddhist meeting or any of these types of things, you can do this with anything. It doesn't have to be religion. Is to simply allow yourself, you're gonna feel these things thinking about, oh well, that's not right, and this is incorrect. For that moment, we just want to let those things go. We're trying to embrace that paradigm long enough to experience it, because we want to understand how it is that these people perceive reality. And this is a very useful tool, being able to understand different perspectives. But we can take this deeper than just a one-day vacation into other people's realities. This can be done in full length of study. I know many chaos magicians who have spent many years in this tradition or another to understand the different things within it. Because, if we're just taking that little bit of surface knowledge and just the aesthetics of a different style of magic, that's not really paradigm shifting. The little pieces on concepts within a style that work, yes, that is useful, but you're not going to find that just with the aesthetics. You need to go in deeper into the idea. Now, we can also change ideas within our belief structure outside of this. We don't have to just go embracing this type of dogma or that type of dogma. And of course, when we embrace these types of dogma, we need to be able to let go afterwards. You don't want to allow yourself to be drawn in to new belief structures out of curiosity. So we should experience these things for a while, allow ourselves to embrace them. But it is important to be able to return back to your own base reality. And by base reality in this concept, I do not mean our shared reality. I mean you need to have your own set base of where reality is. And now this is going to perhaps change a little bit with each paradigm that you pull in. But then we want to tie these things together. So each time that we have one of these experiences with any of these different religions or anything like that, once we're done, you want to go back to your core. And this is something that I keep tied to my personal sigil, so that I have an idea of self. And then we want to incorporate these new ideas and expand on our own base reality. And this is where we keep balance, where we keep the aspect of self, is by repurposing or assimilating. I know that makes this, I might as well say cultural appropriation at that point. But we're not talking about taking their aesthetics. We're talking about taking the tools within systems that work. You're not going to be taking titles. As far as cultural appropriation, since I've brought it up, to me that's more about taking undeserved titles and things of that nature. when we are embracing a system, learning to understand it, and then using the tools within it that resonate within us to build up our own system, I don't think appropriation is the right word. That is more of a personal evolution, a drawing upon the totality of what there is for us to experience within our own reality. So, I don't know. I suppose maybe there are more moral implications that people want to discuss as far as cultural appropriation. But to me, as long as you're not intending harm and you're not claiming titles, because that's an important distinction there, then we should be allowed to use those tools within a system that allow us to advance and evolve. Yeah? In my own teachings, I was told that it is important to remember that we are of the future. We are not of the past. The past is something that should be built upon to reach into the future. But anyways, I'm very much getting off track. I may do a video on cultural appropriation at some point, but that was not intended to be this video. So, anyways, we want to have that firm sense of self, which, like I said, can be tied to your personal sigil, that we return to before we go into the next system. Otherwise, things can just start getting jumbled and lose cohesion. So we experience the new paradigm, come back to center, experience the new paradigm, come back to center, and always adding to and incorporating into the inherent personal system that we develop as we grow. So it does change, but remains the same. Okay, so now, as I was saying, this doesn't just have to be embracing other people's dogma and then bringing it back. This can also be about simply altering aspects of your own belief. And that can be a little more difficult, yeah? When you embrace someone else's dogma, there are people helping you along. There are guideposts showing you the way. But if you've decided you simply want to believe that there is a little purple man that lives in your laundry room. Now, I don't know why you'd want to believe that particular thing exactly, but if you wanted to convince yourself of that, what you would do is every time that you think that's silly, you remind yourself. And anytime you can repeat to yourself. There's another law in sorcery, is every time a concept is repeated, the power of its faith increases. And we can use this. If you keep telling yourself there's a little purple man in the room, eventually you will start believing it. That isn't necessarily going to make a little purple man physically appear in the room, but in this case you probably are going to create some kind of egregore, and you might find you might learn a useful lesson by convincing yourself that there is a ghost in your attic, when starting out with knowing that there isn't. In fact, that's actually almost exactly the experiment that I did with the theater in high school. I have a video on that I will leave here. I talk a lot about the idea of belief imparts reality in that video. But, like I said, we can change things this way. One can even simply tell yourself you're more attractive. And not only is that going to make yourself feel better, it might be a little hard to embrace at first, but each time, just affirmation. You literally look in the mirror like the old commercials. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Well, there's repetition in that. Okay? And if you kept telling yourself, I am attractive, people find me attractive, then once you get to start believing it, then that actually will increase how attractive you become to other people. And you are much more likely to notice when people find you attractive if you have convinced yourself that you're attractive, rather than just brushing off the idea. You're going to be more likely watching for people checking you out. Yeah? And that's where this reality then becomes imparted. And like I said, we can do this with all kinds of different concepts. The main purpose, to me, however, of shifting your paradigms is to learn about different realities and understand and to achieve understanding so we can build up that main paradigm. But it's also a way to learn how to do new things. This is especially useful when we are learning other styles of spellcraft. We can embrace those styles if they have something that it is that we want to learn. In order to learn that, you're going to have to embrace that style and follow the guidance of what that path teaches until you understand the thing that they are trying to achieve. Theoretically, it's possible to even teach oneself new abilities this way. If you simply convince yourself that you know how to remote view, for example, you can just keep telling yourself that you know how to remote view, and because there's not a particular combination of skills that you actually need to remote view. Rather, you just need to be able to come to accept that you can and allow yourself to do it. This will work. Simply telling yourself that you can. I can remote view. And you just keep believing this. And eventually, the idea of how to do it will come to you. And when this idea comes to you, follow those steps until you are able to remote view. And I have actually heard of several people using almost exactly that method to learn that particular skill. Of course, I have lots of videos on that with the glass hand, and there are techniques that I find help. But one could certainly learn to remote view simply by telling oneself that you can remote view. So that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you once again for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. Until next time, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal.